Hey Vol fans, welcome to Story Time with Smokey and Davy. Today we're going to be reading Smokey Tails. Let's go ahead and get started. Smokey and his great-grandtown, General Gnawbone, often walked along the creek. Sometimes the general showed him which plants could hurt and which could heal. Sometimes he had Smokey practice his swimming, like he had learned in the volunteer Navy. And sometimes, like today, he told Smokey wonderful stories of yesteryear, like the one about the gold bone. Now this is no ordinary bone, the general told him. It gives any animal who bites it super energy, healing aches and pains at the same time. All the animals have fought over it for years and years. Hound dogs, bulldogs, chickens, and tigers. Why, even elephants want this bone. I had it once when I was younger. In those days, I could run for miles and bark as loud as a pack of beagles. What happened to it, Granddad? I buried it in a field for safekeeping. Someone must have followed me and stolen it out from under my nose. And I have a pretty good nose, he pointed out. I've heard rumors that the bone is somewhere in the southeastern jungle. Sure wish I had it now for my aches and pains. Now Smokey had a nose for adventure, so he determined he would find that gold bone and bring it back to the general. Smokey packed everything he would need for such an adventure. 2 jars of sweet gum molasses, some fishing string with hooks, and a helping of South Carolina fried chicken. Early the next morning, Smokey set out on his raft, floating down towards the Chattahoochee River. After several hours, Smokey came to the outskirts of a large town called Big Dog City. He beached his raft and ventured into town. Smokey had never laid eyes on so many dogs. He decided to rest a spell and see if anyone knew the whereabouts of the gold bone. He met a grumpy bulldog named Old George. "Kid, you might as well give up. I lost my temper for good when an elephant named Alabama stole that bone from me. And I doubt you'll have any better luck," snarled Old George. Smokey recalled the general's telling stories about a big red elephant who harassed him on his journeys. "It'll take more than an unpleasant elephant to stop me," he told Old George. And with that, he set off for the southeastern jungle. Smokey had sailed for a day when his raft sprang a leak. "Rats!" he muttered. He paddled to land, lickety-split. From shore, his ears picked up a distant trumpeting. He stiffened his tail, put his nose to the ground, and set about investigating the noise. "Oh, my achy tummy," bellowed a huge elephant as she blew her trunk with a loud, squeaky shriek. "This must be Alabama." As Smokey climbed a rock to get a better view, his paw slipped, shooting pebbles to the ground below. "Who's there?" trumpeted Alabama. "I'm Smokey. I was just on my way to—" "Is you a hound?" Bammy interrupted. "I never did care for hounds. Met one a few years back, always barking and chasing my tail. You look like the pooch. An elephant never forgets. Now what you doing spying on me?" "I'm here for the gold bone." "Ha!" jeered Bammy. "You? That's the silliest thing I've ever heard. That bone is now in the possession of one crazy gator, Mr. Chomper. I don't intend to help a lesser mammal, but if you'll cure my achy belly, I'll tell you where you might find that gator." Smokey didn't trust Bammy, but he needed some clues. "Very well, show me what you've been eating." Bammy took Smokey to a large tree loaded with sugary fruit. A pride pear tree, he knew, and its fruit had long since gone sour. Bammy had apparently eaten many trunkfuls. "Nectar from a hamblebush bloom is the only cure," Smokey told her. "Here's some." She gulped the nectar down in one big gulp. She even ate the petals. "You sure do know your vegetation, hound. I feel better already. I don't like hounds, but a deal is a deal." So Bammy told Smokey about a sand trail through the woods that leads straight to the swamp, home of the gator. But be warned, that gator waits for any animal to walk by and chomp. He gobbles them up. But Smokey wasn't afraid. he thanked Bammy and headed towards the deepest, darkest part of the jungle, the swampland. Smokey walked for hours. Dog-tired, he stopped to make camp. He was just about to eat his dinner when two orange eyes glowed through the darkness. "Who's there?" A big blue gator came wobbling out of the shadows. When the gator came closer, Smokey spotted it. A gold bone. It was tied around the gator's neck. "Mr. Chomper." "Who's disturbing my dinner?" said Mr. Chomper. Smokey bravely stepped forward and barked, "I'm on a gator hunt, and you're the gator I'm hunting for." "Is that so?" And before Smokey could even lift a paw, Mr. Chomper took a big bite down on a rope, and snap! A wooden crate crashed down, trapping him inside. "I was hunting for an appetizer tonight, and a little coon corn dog will do me just fine." He carried the crate back to his lakeside shack, lifted Smokey by the tail, and tossed him into a chicken wire pen. Then he got to work, making a soggy gumbo. "And now for my appetizer," Mr. Chomper waltzed over to the pen. "Everyone knows puppy dog is better with a little sweet gum molasses," said Smokey, hoping the dull-minded gator would take the bait. "There's some in my pack. Help yourself." Sweet gum molasses? Sounds delicious. Mr. Chomper grabbed a jar and tasted the sweet stuff. He ate and ate and ate, each time putting his claws deeper into the jar and bringing up gobs of the thick, sticky syrup. By the time he had finished, his mouth was so stickety he could barely open it, and his claws were so stuckety he could barely move them. Smokey knew eating that much sweet gum would make any critter as sleepy as a porch cat, and the gator was soon drifting off into a deep, syrupy sleep. Smokey sent dirt flying, digging a hole out of the pen. He crept over to Mr. Chomper, opened up the second jar of sweet gum, and carefully poured the goo over his feet and tail. He cautiously climbed onto Mr. Chomper's back and untied the gold bone. But just as the bone came free, it brushed across Mr. Chomper's snout. The gator woke with a snort. He lunged at Smokey, nearly grabbing his tail, but instead he fell flat on his face. He looked down and realized he was stuck fast. "See you later, alligator," Smokey yelled as he took off up the sand trail to the river. In the distance, he could hear Mr. Chomper bellowing some distasteful words. Back at the river, he set about patching his raft with a small bit of sweet gum. He was about to push off from the shore when a loud crashing came steaming towards him. "Allie Bammy!" "Give me that bone, you mangy mutt!" Smokey paddled hard, making his way to the middle of the river. But Bammy didn't give up. She ran along the bank and charged up a high bluff. "You ain't going nowhere," Bammy shouted. And with that, she jumped off the cliff and cannonballed into the water with a great kersplash. A huge wave tossed Smokey into the rushing water. He swam with all his might, fighting the great strength of the fierce river. But the rapids rushed over him and slammed him into a giant boulder. A thunderous noise rumbled behind him. The river was pulling him towards a massive waterfall. He was just about to be thrown over when a paw grabbed him. It was the general. He pulled Smokey clear of the water. "I guess those swimming lessons paid off." "Sure did," Smokey panted. "How did you find me, Grandhound?" "Well, when your pa told me you had set out on an adventure, I thought I could use a little adventure too. So I tracked you down. Was that Bammy I saw going over the falls?" "It sure was. She was mighty sore to get this." Smokey pulled the gold bone out of his pocket and presented it to the general. "I don't believe it. How did you?" The general's eyes filled with tears of joy. "I am mighty proud of you, son. Thank you, Smokey, thank you." "Let's head back, Grandhound," Smokey said. "I believe I've had my fill of adventure for now." And the two hounds sniffed out a trail to take them home. The end. Smokey and I want to say thank you for joining us tonight as we got to read to you all. And we want to say go Vols as we take on Missouri this Saturday inside Neyland Stadium. So go Vols.